From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. You know, I'm really getting sick of all the incestuous navel-gazing we seem to take part in. It's all over the media. We're guilty of it ourselves, even in our personal conversations. There's this obsession with analysis, especially regarding the Orange Menace. I mean, I suppose it can be interesting, it can be entertaining, but in the end, it's not helpful. With all this talk about socialism recently, I'm reminded of a quote by Karl Marx. He wrote this in 1845. "The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it." Yeah, I identify strongly with that quote. I'm a thinker and a writer and a talker. It's pretty much what I do. But in the end, it's about changing the world. It's about trying to give some good and practical advice. It's not just analysis for the sake of analysis, because it's fun, because it's entertaining. All this thinking and writing and talking are useful only if they help guide real-world movements. And that's what I'm trying to do. Whether I'm succeeding or failing, I'll leave that to others to judge. But I agree with Marx. Philosophy must connect with real people to create social and political revolutions. Absolutely. So in that spirit, I want to talk about something today for just a minute that I hope is good practical advice for our real world. And that's what I call aspirationalism. You know, aspirations, to aspire. A strong desire to achieve something high or great. Hopes and dreams. A deep desire to reach a higher goal. We should all be aspirational, shouldn't we? And this is especially relevant right now because I keep hearing socialists forced to explain themselves, to defend their positions. And often they try to make the interviewer understand. It usually fails. These journalists, these interviewers are just so unwilling or unable to understand these simple concepts. For example, the DSA website, which is everybody's favorite whipping boy. The whole idea of having no cops, of having no prisons, is aspirational. Nobody thinks we can flick a switch or win a governor's race or a Senate race and walk in on day one and abolish cops or abolish prisons. I'll stick with these because they're the easiest examples. There are many other examples. The point here is that everybody, regardless of how they self-identify politically, everybody should want a world with no cops and with no prisons because we have no need for them, because everybody has their basic material needs met one way or another, again, regardless of your political stripe. Shouldn't that be a universal aspiration? A world without cops? A world without prisons? I often point to John Lennon's Imagine. I'm a literalist when it comes to the lyrics. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. Shouldn't that be everybody's aspiration? Shouldn't that be universal? The arguments, the political arguments, should be how we achieve these things, not if we want these things. People who refuse to advocate for these aspirations must, by definition, fall into one of two buckets. One, they don't care. They really don't care if everybody is happy and gets along. Or bucket number two, maybe they care but they've given up. Oh, it's impossible. We can never do it. Well, of those two options, either I don't care or I've given up. Well, I reject both of those options. I myself, personally, define myself as an anarcho-communist because that's my aspirational position. No borders, no cops, no money, no rulers, no government as we know it today. Organized? Yes. Democracy? Yes. Cooperation? Yes. But the hierarchy of money and power politics? Gone. That's my aspiration, and that's why I identify as an anarcho-communist. But I advocate for socialism, and I've never really identified as a socialist, but I advocate for socialism because it's a step in the right direction. But I live in a capitalist society, so I've had to live under those rules for my whole life. And for the most part, I've followed those rules as a necessity. They're rules and conditions invented and enforced by flawed human beings. We're all just doing our best. So right now, as I live and breathe, I'm a citizen and I'm a voter, and I am in opposition to the capitalist rules. I reject them as I'm able, but there's a limit if I want to eat and if I don't want to wind up in jail. And so I employ pragmatism. The sewer socialists of Milwaukee and Wisconsin, I'm constantly singing their praises. That was their defining feature, pragmatism. They were practical. They didn't have their heads in the clouds. They didn't have tunnel vision where they were only able to see their aspirational goals and unable to see the real world around them. I'd like to think that's how I'm approaching this. As is often said, the person who invented the light bulb worked by candlelight. There's no getting around that. So as a practical matter, I vote for progress toward the ultimate vision, toward a more perfect union, which is a very nice turn of phrase. That's just another way of putting it. Is it utopian to have that vision for the perfect future? Of course it is. Is that wrong? Of course it's not. In fact, I would say it's necessary. Is it sufficient? No. Is it necessary? Yes. So as I make my decisions in this world, the way I live my life, and especially the way I cast my vote, I always have two priorities in mind. Two equal priorities. And every decision I make has to pass muster. 1, reduce the power of money. Every step I take as an individual, as a voter, has to move in that direction of a more perfect union, of my utopia, of my anarcho-communism, where money doesn't exist. So every decision I make must serve to reduce the power of money. In that way, I am an incrementalist. And that's a word that I use disparagingly all the time. But I have to confess, in that way, yeah, I know I can't get there tomorrow. But every step has to take us in the right direction at least. So 1, reduce the power of money, and 2, increase the role of democracy. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a theorist. You don't have to be a historian or an expert. You just have to be a reasonably intelligent thinking person, a moral person. I should think we'd all agree on the basics of the goals we're after. No one goes hungry. There's no crime. There's health care for everybody. How you get there, have all the debates you want. I'm happy to have those debates. Not talking about how you get there right now. It's just that every step along the way should take you toward those goals, and I don't know why or how we would disagree on the ultimate goals. I mean, any political vision without some sort of utopia in the frame, well, to me, that's just useless. Why would you even bother? I mean, it's either cruel, well, poverty and injustice, they're just natural. You going to be okay with that? Or it's fatalistic. We'll never achieve the utopia, so why bother? I just give up. Yeah, we can debate how we get closer to a more perfect union, but we must never abandon the project. So, as you listen to candidates, as you assess party platforms, I would ask you to use this criteria to judge them. Also, use it to judge yourself. I mean, if you pass the first test, meaning, yes, I care, and no, I haven't given up. If you can pass that test, then take an honest look at the candidate, their party, and their platform. Demand of every candidate that they have practical initiatives that will move us in the right direction toward a more perfect union. And right now, that's a choice between only 2 major parties. I'm sorry to say, but that's just the truth. It's not the best world, but it's the one we live in. So we're not looking for a perfect candidate, a perfect party, but we are looking for at the very least, the right direction. It's all aspirational. Now, there are varying degrees of pace. Some things we can do on day 1. Some things you can do pretty quickly. Others take 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, a generation. Regardless, are we moving in the right direction? There is an order to this. First, you decide what you want, what you aspire for. You have to decide that on your own. Second, which candidate or party takes you toward that aspiration. Again, you don't have to be an expert. Just be a reasonably intelligent, functioning person. And of course, you have to care about not just yourself, but others and the natural world. If you don't care, then I don't know what to tell you. That's a much larger, longer conversation. That's philosophy and religion. We'll try to tackle that in the future. But for today, for now, I'm just going to leave it as a fundamental prerequisite. You have to care. As Bernie famously put it, I've heard him say this a few times, when asked why he does what he does. His answer? Because I give a damn. It's not devotion to particular and distinct institutions or a political party or a blind obedience to an established set of preordained rules. That's radical fundamentalism. That's Al-Qaeda or MAGA, or for that matter, the Democratic Party. It can be any party or organization if you treat them as the end rather than the means. If your car breaks down, I don't care how much you love your car. If it can't get you to your destination, you fix it, or you get another car. If your political institutions, the parties, the rules, the leaders, if they aren't taking you in the right direction, you can't cling to them. You fix them, or you get new ones. Your devotion is not to a party, not if you care about getting to your destination. A better world, a safer world, a more just world, a more perfect union. The destination is the point. So what is that destination for you? Is it only personal comfort and everyone else be damned? Is it privilege and prosperity for you and your kind, your race, your religion, and everyone else be damned? Is it the material wealth of humans? Oh, I'm a humanitarian. I want the best for all people. But the earth be damned? Or is it a better world for everyone? Is it a better, healthier world itself? The earth itself? If it is, then live in every way possible to advance that goal. As for politics, as a voter, throw away the labels, throw away the jargon, socialist, communist, capitalist, right, left, conservative, moderate, progressive, I don't care. These words are used as weapons to scare you, to manipulate you. Ignore them. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to care. You just have to give a damn. Well, I've been talking about being practical, about the pragmatism of the sewer socialists. But I want to make it clear that being practical and being bold are not mutually exclusive. Practical is not necessarily small. It's not compromise. It's not going to the middle. No, it just means doing what can be done. You don't expect the impossible. It's what can be done today. So that's an important distinction that I want to make sure I'm clear about. I don't want to be equivocating about this stuff. I don't want to be ambiguous about my message here. We still need to be bold. We need to have big, ambitious goals, and as soon as possible. So don't ever mistake pragmatism for timidity. They're not the same. So let's shift gears here a little bit in this segment. Let's be a little more bold. And these are my last opportunities here to talk to my friends in Wisconsin before the primary election ends on August 11. Get out, vote now. Early voting is happening as we speak. Polls close Tuesday night, August 11th. And there's some information I feel I want you to have before you cast that vote. We talked about that Marquette poll that came out just a couple days ago that found most people were still very hesitant about socialism. Well, in a recent survey of U.S. adults, it's split kind of right down the middle. whether people lean Democratic or Republican. This is not socialism right now, but I'm just making a point with this survey. 13% were strong Democrats or strong Republicans on each end of the scale. And then another 10% of voters identify as Democrats but not strong Democrats. 7% of Republicans answer that way. And then in the very large middle that people love to talk about, 57% of U.S. adults self-identify as independents. 22% of them lean Republican, 23% of them lean Democrat, because there's no place else to go, of course. So they ask about the lean question. I understand that. And that leaves 11% in the middle. Well, the reason I'm spending time with this is because it's so bogus. Everything I just said was entirely misleading. It was a lie. Everything you just heard is a lie. Because people are notoriously terrible at identifying their own political affiliation. How do you explain the fact that 90% of U.S. adults favor reasonable gun control? 70 to 80% want universal health care. 80% want to tax the rich. Issue after issue after issue. U.S. adults favor so-called left policies by wide margins. So this is all just to say, please ignore these ridiculous poll results where they ask voters to declare their team. Those results are entirely at odds with the positions people hold on the actual issues. It's not even close. The disparity is enormous. So that brings us back to Francesca Hong, candidate for the Democratic nomination for governor of Wisconsin. Oh, she's not electable. Oh, she's so far left. She's not electable because of these bogus, ridiculous labels that people don't understand. Voters are incapable of self-identifying. So for the umpteenth time, throw the labels away. They mean nothing. Look at the issues. What's electable? Getting corporate PAC money out of politics, that's electable. Moratoriums on data centers, that's electable. Universal child care is electable. $20 minimum wage is electable. These are all Francesca Hong's promises. It's what she's running on. Fully funded schools is electable. Universal school meals is electable. Medicare for all is electable. Opposing ICE. Cutting property taxes. And how do you do all this? Tax the rich. The most electable issue on the table. So Francesca Hong is not waiting for anyone to tell her what's electable. She is electable. She and Abdul El-Sayed and the other progressives, some of them social democrats, are all eminently electable. The Republicans, they can't wait. They want to run against the socialists. Independent reporter Ken Klippenstein, who we love around here, got a leaked memo showing that Wisconsin Republicans privately see Francesca Hong as, quote, uniquely dangerous in the general election. Republican strategists are agreeing with what we've been saying around here. She's not only electable, she's uniquely dangerous compared to the establishment Democrats, who will squash enthusiasm. According to the memo, Hong's combination of grassroots momentum, unapologetically progressive ideology, and a platform centered on high turnout makes her uniquely dangerous in the general election. Hong's platform is broadly popular and difficult to counter. These are Republicans talking to each other. Her agenda is built around kitchen table issues that poll strongly with independents, working families, and even some rural voters. More moderate and establishment Democratic alternatives would likely produce lower base motivation and depressed turnout. Not to mention the fact every Republican at every level is going to call every Democrat at every level a communist anyway. Hell, they're going to call them terrorists. They've already been doing that for years. Remember Stephen Miller's 2024 Madison Square Garden speech? Again at the Charlie Kirk Fireworks Memorial. Remember that bizarre event? Every Republican is going to lie about every Democrat. So why not? Why not go for it here? I mentioned that Michigan Democrats, after the Al-Sayed win, seem to be saying the right things, especially the losing candidate, Stevens, the people who endorsed her, including Gretchen Whitmer. They're saying the right things. I hope that holds true, because there's still, even after his win, there is still a movement of establishment Democrats who are just petrified, horrified at any position to the political left of Dwight Eisenhower. While we're on this electability thing too, I have to mention this. I want to go down all the swing states from 2024 and the shift in Orange Menace popularity, which is a huge marker. It's an important stat. The difference, the shift between election night 2024 and today. Arizona, minus 11. Georgia, minus 22. Nevada, minus 21. North Carolina, minus 15. Pennsylvania, minus 18. Wisconsin, minus 16. Florida, minus 12. Ohio, minus 13. Michigan, minus 20. And in dozens of special elections and off-year elections between the 2024 presidential and today, Republicans are losing by double digits. Right here in Wisconsin, double-digit losses for Republicans. There is no downside to voting for Francesca Hong as Democratic nominee in Wisconsin. None. It's all upside. So in these last few days, I'm begging you, Wisconsin voters, to not only do the right thing with your ballot, but please, for the love of God, stop with this torrent of fear-mongering and your embarrassing amateur punditry. It's not helping. Word of mouth around the water cooler, hanging out at the corner bar with your buddies, having these conversations. And now, especially in the world we live in, what we are bombarded with, each of us, in our social media feed, it has impact. It is not inconsequential. It is highly consequential. And I'm begging you, stop being a patsy, a stooge, a useful idiot for those trying to sabotage any candidate. Now, of course, I've tried to make my case for Francesca Hong, but you can vote for whoever you want to. That's absolutely your right. And I'm not going to dig up dirt or share rumors or lies or propaganda about any candidate. I'm just asking you to do the same. Well, one last note, at least this week, on why this insurgency in the Democratic Party is so important, why it matters. We're in an existential crisis with MAGA fascism, if I need to remind you of that. We need Congress to act. We need courts to prosecute. We need governors and state legislatures to resist. That's why I care so deeply about this Wisconsin primary and the insurgency overall. Now, there's been a lot of hype about the progressives and the Democratic Socialists. This insurgency, it's small, but it is mighty. And it has the potential to grow leading up to the 2028 elections. Now, you know me, I don't like having to count so much on elections. I'm the one who's always calling for direct citizen action, for mutual aid, general and targeted strikes, general and targeted boycotts. But there's no denying that elected officials at all levels have a huge role to play. The insurgents in the Democratic primaries this summer have given us all some hope. We have to build on that. Because there's no going back to some fictional normal in this country. We can only go forward. Healthcare, permanent affordability, government and political reform, accountability for MAGA criminals. That's what's on the line. This is a big moment. And if corporate Democrats win in 26 and 28, I have no hope for real change, for real progress, unless we're able to keep the pressure up and force them to do the right thing. Progress only happens with Democrats kicking and screaming. We have to force their hand. It's a big job. The insurgent left needs to be in the room, in the seats of power. We can't be always pushing and prodding from the corridors and from the streets. I mean, for crying out loud, it's been 10 years of this MAGA madness. And it is madness. Gutting departments, gutting regulations. People are getting sick. People are dying. The earth itself, the environment, is being destroyed right before our eyes. They're unleashing the billionaire oligarchs and their AI dystopia. They're hoarding the nation's wealth. Affordability is more than a slogan. Families are literally unable to sustain their lives. Food, energy, healthcare, education, housing, all the basics out of reach for millions. The MAGA regime is terrorizing our immigrant community. They've closed the border to new immigrants. And across the borders, tariff wars, shooting wars, children's schools being bombed, fishing boats being bombed out of the water, broken alliances with allies, new alliances with burgeoning authoritarians, especially in South America, support for genocide in Gaza and the West Bank, a full frontal attack on women's rights, LGBTQ rights, voter suppression, election rigging, jailing political enemies. I mean, the Republican Party writ large has gone mad. This malicious, vindictive, sadistic regime they've got going. Totally detached from reality. The truth doesn't matter. Only power. And not just power, cruelty. There's a literal bloodlust coming from the White House, from the Department of War Crimes. That's why these elections are so important. Because, again, I have no faith, none, in corporate Democrats to reverse any of this. It's been 10 years. It'll be another 10 years, and then another 10 years, where things just get worse and worse. There is no progress without real and effective pressure from the left. History teaches us this. Democrats only do the right thing when they're forced, when they're pressured, when they have no choice. We have to keep up that pressure. We need to put insurgent Democrats and independents into Congress. We absolutely need them in state legislatures and in governors' offices. So the August 11 primaries, Alabama, Connecticut, Minnesota, Vermont, and Wisconsin. I hope you've already voted in those states, and if you haven't, please do before polls close on Tuesday. Then next week, August 18th, we've got Alaska, Florida, and Wyoming, and then a few more in early September to close it out, and then, of course, November, the general. Keep the insurgency alive. All right, we'll get back to more wide-ranging news and commentary next week. But I feel compelled to use these last few moments together before the Wisconsin primary to talk about this. This and all episodes can be heard at the website, charlespurcell.com, or on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Follow us on Blue Sky and Substack. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song. All right, I love you. Go vote.